Education Business Alliance Industry Professionals Roundtables. You are tuned in right now to our Finance Roundtable. We have a wealth of experts across different areas of the finance industry with us today, and we're very thankful for them. As we kick things off, I do want to give a special thanks to Julie Lewis with the Clay County EDC. All of her work has helped make this possible technologically and beyond. So thank you to Clay County for helping to continue to support NEBA. And then Mr. Brett Kisker with the Northland Caps. He's going to be running our technology on the background and switching between things for us. And then he'll be manning our question and answer section. So down at the lower part of your screen, you'll notice there's a Q&A button. Please feel free to enter your questions there, and don't be shy because we'll continue to call you out all throughout the session. We have some great experts with us today, and we want to be sure that we get all the information from them we can and to fit your needs. So please feel free to continue to use the Q&A. So I'm Amy Washam. I'm with Northwest Missouri State University at our Kansas City location. I am the director, and I am also a member of the Northland Education Business Alliance, so lovingly called NEBA. This is a cooperative organization between education and business professionals, and we're hoping to find ways and opportunities to further develop the workforce within Platte and Clay counties. So that's who we are. And I thought we would give now an opportunity to our panelists to discuss who they are, what company they work for, and their backgrounds a little bit this morning. So I'm just going to go around the screen as they appear, which is how they logged in. So first come, first serve, I guess, is the basis we'll go on today. We'll start with Mr. Ken Honick.
Hey, welcome everybody. Glad you're spending part of your morning with us. I am Ken Honick. I am with First Missouri Bank down at roughly at Armour in Burlington, down in Northtown. I'm the chief deposit officer. Just means that all the branches report up through me. Before that, I was with Bank Liberty for about 15 years, lucky enough to help them grow from 4 branches to as many as 14, and before the sale to Central Bank. I'm also I work with Brett closely. I'm fortunate enough that I've spent 5 or 6 years now on the Northland Caps board, so the connection between business and education is near and dear to my heart. And the other thing, I should have mentioned that I'm from here originally. I'm an old Northtown graduate, and I'm thrilled to death to have the honor to be the chair of the Clay County Children's Services Fund. So it's nice to be in a position to get to help in a lot of ways, and I've been able to do that, and real happy to be here with you today. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan George.
Hi, yeah, again, thanks for coming today. My name is Ryan George. I'm the founder and owner of Ascend Wealth Management. It's a financial planning firm located actually down in Leawood, Kansas. However, grew up north of the river, went to Oak Park High School, graduated, and then went to Northwest Missouri State. So keeping it north as much as I can, right? So been a financial advisor for 20 years, certified financial planner since 2005, and looking forward to sharing any insights I can today.
Thank you. Rich, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Hopefully you won't hold it against me. I'm in Lawrence, Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I am with Central Bank of the Midwest, and we are an affiliate of Central Bank. They're located in Jeff City, Missouri, and we must have, I think, 14 affiliates. And in the Central Bank Midwest, we have we're eliminating a few, but we're going to have about 47 branches here come mid-year. I am assistant vice president, and I am a consumer lender. Basically, I underwrite all the different kind of consumer loans you can think about. Debt consolidation, auto purchases, all that kind of stuff. I actually got my start as a part-time teller back when I was going to school at KU, and that led into full-time tellering. That led to a change going up into the credit department and administration, and finally into the lending. Banking's great because you can kind of find a niche of what you like, and there's lots of different opportunities. So I look forward to any questions you might have for me.
Thank you so much. Chandra, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Chandra, and I am with AFLAC. So a little bit different than the financial part. We're technically insurance, as you all know, the duck. However, AFLAC is designed to protect your assets that you have. So I grew up in Maryville, also went to Northwest, and yeah. And then I live in Liberty. My office is technically in North Kansas City. However, my day-to-day is working with businesses of all sizes to offer AFLAC benefits as part of their benefits package. We have a variety of policies, and that's what we do. So I've been with AFLAC for 10 years, not going anywhere, and I love what I do every day.
Awesome. Thank you. I promise I didn't stack the deck, and I know it's going to sound that way, especially when I introduce Eric. I'll let you go next.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thanks for letting me be a part of the session today. My name is Eric LaPata. I am a Northlander. I went to high school at Park Hill, and then also went to school at Northwest, so representing the Bearcats today. I graduated with my undergrad in 2007, and then went on to get my master's at Northwest as well. Graduated in 2008 with that. And I work for BKD, which is a public accounting firm. I've worked for BKD ever since I got out of school, so going on 14 years this coming August. So it's hard to believe it's been that long, but absolutely love what I do at BKD. BKD is probably, it changes every year, but I think the 10th largest public accounting firm in the country, and so we've obviously got a large presence in Kansas City here, and so I work on the financial assurance side, so basically financial statement audits and other consulting services. And I primarily work in the not-for-profit sector, do a lot of healthcare not-for-profit work. So excited to be a part of the discussion today. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So just as a quick reminder, our session will go until about 11:30 today. So we have plenty of time for lots of awesome questions. So in the lower portion of your screen, there should be a Q&A button. Feel free to select that button and type in your questions. And then here in a little bit, Mr. Kisker will help us filter through those. If you can ask specific questions to one speaker if you so choose, or if you would like your question to go to all speakers, we can do that as well. They do come from very different areas, but these all very much intersect into what's really important in our world, in the world of finance. So feel free to add your questions as we move along through today's discussion. We thought we would just kick it off a little bit, and I know this is probably a really close to heart question for maybe some of our folks on the call, knowing some of their backgrounds. But if we could just start out by talking about why is it important for everyone to help build the future workforce here, especially in the Northland of Kansas City. So if your lens can provide some background in that, maybe ways that you or your company are involved in the community and some of your efforts, we would love to hear about those. So we'll start off with Ken, please.
Yeah, I think building the workforce is important because ultimately we want the Northland to be a destination. We don't want to suffer from having really bright people raised here and then move somewhere else for opportunities. And we want to be that destination because there'll just be a lot more. The benefits of it are tremendous. There are more jobs for everyone. You know, I think of the work that I do with the Children's Fund, that, you know, the better the workforce is here, the less need we would have for things, you know, like that. So we ultimately want to have want to be a destination. You think of the decimation of rural communities where so many of their bright people move to larger cities away, and look at what's happened to them going through 3 and 4 generations of that now. You know, we want to be the destination because it just improves the quality of life for everyone around. And not just, I don't even mean by that it makes people richer. It means that we keep rich communities, rich, thriving socially communities. So you want to be a destination. You don't, I mean, we're always, you know, there's certain things you go to New York for, you go to LA for, you go to Washington for, that's fine. But we don't ever want to see that to make it here, you've got to, you know, go to St. Louis or Denver or Minneapolis or Chicago. We've got to be a destination.
Thank you. Ryan, would you like to tackle that question?
Well, you know, I just think about a little bit of what's gone on over the last several decades, and even more prevalent when we see more and more automation coming into our lives. And, the reality is if things can be automated, they will be. And so a lot of career paths that were, maybe more manufacturing driven or things in that nature, when I think about the finance world, there's still a ton of service focused and also human focused work to be done. And so, continue to develop folks that have skills along those lines is going to be tremendously important. And then I would dovetail on what Ken's saying. It's about cultivating the community then as you get back into helping educate and grow individuals into your profession. It's fostering a better community for the longer run.
Thank you. Rich, do you have some things you'd like to add? I think you're still muted, sorry.
Sorry about that. I don't have a whole lot to add. Our market's a little bit different out here in Lawrence. We are definitely a service kind of community and industry. But I agree, we need to keep our young folks educated so that we can continue on the right path and kind of keep that rolling for everybody. The better financial choices you make and all those kind of things have a ripple effect for the entire economy. So it's just really important, and I feel privileged to be a part of this and help out, even though I'm not in the Northland myself. I know our bank has a big presence up there, and so this is very important to us.
Yeah, workforce development isn't, by boundaries even. So I'm sure that you have, some priorities in Lawrence as well to keep your folks there, your young people local and developing. So that's amazing. Thank you. Chandra, would you like to add anything?
Sure. Can I just say ditto to all of that? I mean, all great points, obviously. I think it is to just, with the way the past year has gone and been, who would have ever thought we'd be living through a pandemic, and the way that has changed. And, me living in Liberty, I have seen more, I found out about even more smaller businesses that were here in Liberty that I didn't even know about, but people were making it well known, hey, support this business, do this. And we're just trying to keep everybody afloat during the time. So yeah, I mean, everything else they said too.
Yeah, building communities definitely seems like a strong strand through this, and we want to continue that as well. Eric, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I don't know that I have much to add. I appreciated the comment that Ryan made about, automation of things, and, with technology, you work smarter, not harder. But at the end of the day, I think, all of us can appreciate that, to some extent, we're in the service industry, and providing services to our clients, to our coworkers, things like that, makes, I think, the communication and the social part of things, that much more important. And so, as we think about building future workforce and thinking about what's important, I mean, I think that having those people skills are in my opinion, going to be at the top of the list. And something that, if I think back on my time in school, getting an accounting degree and a financial, going into the financial industry, coming out of school, I didn't think that those were probably the most important things. You talk to my friends, even my family now, and I tell them I'm a CPA, I'm in the accounting industry, and they say, well, you must love numbers, or you're really good with numbers, which that's important information and important, skills to have, obviously. But so much of what, I do, and what I think probably a lot of the others on the call today do is, interact with clients and interact with, others within our firms and in our companies. And so I think just building on those people skills, those social skills is so important.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys are trying to segue Brett a little bit on his questions.
You nailed it. And I'm thinking here, maybe we go like a fantasy football draft. You do like a reverse snake order kind of thing, right? So Eric, you're up next. I'm looking at the attendees right now, and we don't have a large crowd for this, not as large as the one that had signed up. So the attendees, the ones that are here, you guys, we're waiting for you to post those questions, Beth Freeman. Feel free to jump in and ask the things that are on your mind about these folks that we have here. They're all experts. I know a lot of them for a long time. Eric, you mentioned something that I want to hit on more, but because of the size of the panel and make it go a little bit quicker, I'm going to limit it to one thing. If there was a concept or an experience that you feel like that, put yourself back in your days at Park Hill High School, if I would have done this or learned this in high school, it would have been really beneficial for me, knowing that it's educators for the most part that are here in the crowd right now. What would that one thing be? What's the thing that you wish I would have done or practiced or been taught in high school?
Probably thinking back to like speech class, like presentation skills. Being able to get up in front of a group of people and communicate your message. With a lot of my clients, a lot of my time spent in front of boards and, board of directors and finance committees and things like that. And so you need to have the knowledge base and the skill set to know what you're talking about, obviously, but the presentation skills and presence, right? Knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to. So if I think back to, even high school classes and even in college, that's probably the number one thing that sticks out to me is, having that preparedness right into the workforce to be able to, communicate your message, get up in front of a group of people and confidently do so.
That's good.
That's great. Chandra, you're up next in our fantasy football draft here.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the main things that I had written down. I definitely think presentation skills, but just communication in general, being able to adapt to the situation that you're in and the individual that you're speaking with or the different settings. I mean, every day I could be potentially presenting to 100 people in a group setting. That's very different than me being able to sit down with somebody one-on-one and have that conversation. Or hello 2020, and now everything's virtual and Zooms. I mean, that's a whole other concept of that as well. So just being able to really adjust and listen. That's one thing, not just talk, but maybe listening to what the individual is expressing to you and their needs and going from there.
Wonderful. Rich, you're up next.
I couldn't agree more with Chandra. I think being able to communicate with people honestly and openly, listening to what they're saying. And there's a lot of times you may need to ask them a question to get it reiterated or put a different way, because we all have our little idiosyncrasies and different terminologies that can be used. So the better our understanding and really listening of what they truly need to do gets you a long way. Other than that, yeah, basic math and verbal skills and reading comprehension, those go a long ways, because you're going to learn the jobs as you're going, but paying attention to those details will save you a lot of headaches in the long run.
Because you're all mentioning something, as and going back and put my teacher hat on so far, 3 answers about listening. And I'm like, man, how do we teach teenagers to listen and pay attention to detail? That's not an easy task, but it is important, So Ryan, you're up next. Keep going.
Well, I think back to my high school days and the fact that I was in forensics and speech and debate and stuff like that, definitely lends some skills to where I am today. And because of that, I think that's been hugely helpful. I think, unveiling to students what's out there in the career world in these, finance, and you think numbers. And I know Laura's got a question that's going to relate to this coming up. It's that's table stakes. Like, you've got to be able to do the math. You've got to be able to, crunch numbers but being able to communicate to sell the business you're in, or to understand you. That's where people that do well exceed. Because at the end of the day, again, if it's just about crunching things, those jobs are going to go away because the computer's going to do it. So you've got to have the ability to think really abstract. So I mean, focus on how can you think abstract thoughts and something that's unique and different. So projects and exercises along those lines, as well as, everybody hates the group projects and stuff like the presentations and the interactions, more of that. I think it's a huge deal.
And I would just add one other thing, saying that in our industry, it's not like the normal sales and service where the customer is always right. We try to do everything the customer wants, but they rely on us for advice and expertise. And sometimes we simply can't do what they want as far as maybe a loan product or something else. We have to be able to fully explain it to them. It's not a personal issue. This is a policy or whatever's going on. But again, just really understanding what you're trying to communicate to the person instead of just listening, I think has a big effect.
Yeah.
I would, Eric, I think you were spot on as an old high school debater and the father of some debaters and speakers too. That ability to present is huge, and not only be comfortable doing it, but in some cases, if I'm perfectly frank, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy getting up in front of people in a speaking thing. Get me up to act or something that would terrify me to just get up and present. I enjoy. Educationally, I do get concerned, and Brett knows this, that maybe sometimes when we talk specifically about something in finance or what have you, we can get a little too specific. I think there is tremendous value in our basic humanities that we teach, and to encourage kids to get as much of that, much of English, as much of history. You think about history, it's really nothing but cause and effect, and how important is that out in business. English, obviously, ability to write. The one humanity that I think we give incredibly short shrift to right now is geography. You can easily get through high school without ever really taking a geography class. And as our demographics change so much more, it's always struck me as peculiar that we don't study the basic geographies to understand not only more of where people are from, but in business, what products and services are within each regions and why they are there. I would love to see, if I was in high school, and I was fortunate that I had an old school high school geography teacher who pounded information into our head whether we wanted it or not, and a lot of it, there are things that I know today that I can specifically say it's because I learned from my high school geography. And thank you, Mr. Little, if anyone cares. But in all seriousness, I think those kinds of things sometimes we don't pay enough attention to, because the points, Chandler, you made the wonderful point, that ability to talk to people and to listen to them. As I said, the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So we need to listen more. If you have this broad understanding of the humanities, and you're always reading something and talking to people, it makes it much easier because you've picked up more information. It's easier to be empathetic to who you're talking to if you have a better broad understanding. So that would be one thing, is to push as many courses that teach you about other people as possible. And I think the humanities do that, as opposed to some kind of, frankly, recreational courses. That would be my wish if I went back to high school.
Fantastic answers, guys. This is great so far. I love hearing what you have to say. It's always interesting to me to hear, and you can see Laura's question if you're on the panel right now. We're getting ready to dive into that one because it's a perfect segue. But so much of the mindset from an outsider point of view, if I'm thinking like I'm a high school kid and I think I'm interested in maybe finance or something related to the business, marketing, insurance, investments, whatever, job, it's all about numbers. And so we probably do in education a disservice by taking kids that say, oh, you love numbers, you should go into this as a career, when it's a much bigger job than what people think. You guys are all hammering on the need to know more about people and communicate with people. I find that interesting, fascinating. So then the next question is, how do we, what advice do you have for educators, for teachers or parents, for making a career in finance attractive? Like, how do we, you know, if they assume it's a numbers career, how do we recruit more people into these? Because the opportunities are there. Where's the spark? How do we light the fire? And I'm not going to go one by one on this. I'll just, whoever has a passion for this can speak up.
I do have one thing I'd like to say. Really, anything they want to do, that if they get successful at it, they're going to need to understand finance. So whether you go into a financial field like those of us on this call did, or maybe you want to go into museum studies, maybe you want to run a bakery, maybe you want to go into a nonprofit, maybe you want to build, you want to be a carpenter. You have enough success, if you get to the point where you're your own boss, you need to understand the finances. That is a part of it. When you go to the bank to get your loan, they want to talk finances. You need to understand that. The advice I gave to my daughter, for instance, when she went to college, is major in whatever you want to major in. I will support that. Get a business minor. But whatever, so she's a history major. It's working out well for her. But the simplest way I think to engage somebody on getting a career in finance is, whatever you go into, if you reach enough success, there is a great possibility you will need to concern yourself with financial statements and how you get financing. So it's not just for the careers you see here. It is for any successful, liberating career. That old adage that, you know, if you find something you really love, you never work a day in your life. Those folks have to understand something about a balance sheet, or else they don't achieve.
I would just add to that by saying, you know, whether you're in a business or anything else, you can narrow that all the way down to your household, a budget for your household, and how important that becomes, not living beyond your means, being able to save some money. So absolutely, Ken, I agree with you.
You know, for me, you know, when I think about Laura's question about, you know, making it a numbers, and I would say that there's probably still some people that, you know, at a young age think of accountants just sitting in front of a desk and a computer and just, you know, pouring over W-2s and 1040s and whatever, and, you know, all kinds of things in that nature. But the reality for my job, you know, it's so different every day. Again, the unique problem solving that every client throws at me. Again, how do I handle the situation where, you know, I'm dealing with a recent widow, and you know, she's never balanced her checkbook, and because her husband did it all, the nuance along that, and just a ton of different, you know, things. And so broadening the scope of what these careers can provide. And then, you know, I'm not afraid to talk to people too. I mean, different industries in finance can be very lucrative. You know, there's a reality of that too. You know, tax attorneys, to me, sounds god awful boring, but if you're good at it, it can be really, really rewarding. And I think that's something too. If something's difficult or hard, and also, you know, it can be rewarding because other people will veer from it because they'll take an easier road. So, you know, if I go to recruit somebody, I'm looking for, you know, how do I recruit somebody to this field? It would be enlightening them to the variety that is out there, versus, again, thinking of Dilbert, you know, sitting at his desk with a calculator.
You know, it's funny you say that, and I'm unmuting myself as the tornado test sirens are going off outside my house right now. First Wednesday of the month. It's funny you say that, Ryan, about, you know, tax accountants and whatnot, because that's kind of the running joke with my group of friends. And, you know, knowing I'm a CPA, immediately they say, well, you must be real busy right now because it's tax season and all that. But quite frankly, you know, I do good enough to get my own taxes done. And I'm not a tax guy. So, you know, there's obviously, you know, those kind of stereotypes that fall into play, and being a numbers person as a CPA. But, you know, I guess I would just, you know, piggyback on some of the previous comments that, I really think that the financial industry is attractive coming out of school because I think there's a lot of job security there. I mean, I think, what we do, there's always going to be a need for that. Whether you're in the insurance industry, whether you're in the accounting, finance side, the banking side. I mean, I think no matter kind of the ebbs and flows of the economy and the job market, I think there's always going to be a pretty strong need. So, for individuals coming out of school with finance degrees looking for work. And so, I look at it from that perspective and I'm honest with people, quite frankly, that, there's a lot of job security coming out of school, and the likelihood of you landing a solid career, a solid job right out of school is pretty high, in my opinion. So, I always tell, whether we're doing interviews with college students that are looking for internships or full-time positions, make it known that, they're going to be sought after coming out of school with, whether it's an accounting or finance type degree. So, I think that's an important aspect of it too.
I don't know if you're reading the Q&A here, but again, you perfect segue here. And the next question that we have from the crowd is a great question. So there is a push, backstory here. There is a push in the Kansas City region and in the Northland to get more kids experience in high school or younger grade levels while they're still trying to make those decisions about who they are and what mark they want to make on the world. And Northland Caps, the organization I'm with is certainly one I would consider a leader in this area, but how do we get kids exposed to these career opportunities? And because of the nature of the information that you're working with, the question from the crowd is there job shadow or internship? Are those opportunities even available for high school kids? And if so, what do they look like? What could the structure look like? Or does consumer confidentiality, does it just make it too difficult where it's like, well, we'd love to have you, we can talk to you a little bit, but it's not really an opportunity to go in depth? And my question makes sense. I'm just going to throw it again out to the crowd. If anybody has any thoughts, passionate answers, throw them out.
Well, I'm incredibly biased because I'm on the Northland Caps board, but that's what Northland Caps is for. So there's a wonderful opportunity for, I believe, any educator that's on this particular call, if I understand the invite list right. And that's what happens is I will, and Brett, jump in because you do this every day and I do it once a month. But, the first semester really has a lot to do with learning the ins and outs of a profession with soft skills and what have you. And the second semester really is very much job shadow and really more interning, doing actual work. I will say you'll find a lot of businesses receptive to some level of job shadowing. We can usually get through the confidentiality issues based upon, what you do and don't show. But yeah, there are those opportunities, and the value of something like Northland Caps is, sometimes you find out that's not what you want to do. Then that can be just as valuable. You go into a strand, say you go into the healthcare strand and you spend a whole year doing some of that and you say, I don't think so. That's very valuable. And then you may say, yeah, I do want to do that. But that would be if, as far as the shadowing. And then I think you all are also, and this may not be what you'd expect a board member of Northland Caps to say, but, for some students, they might have better ways to arrive at that conclusion than actually doing something that is hands-on. They may be better served by, just not even thinking much about that and getting the general education even through their first couple of years of college. I mean, it's going to depend on which student, but they're absolutely, it's hard to overstate how fortunate the Northland is. The Northland has wonderful opportunities if getting into a business to figure things out is what you want to do. And really, there are other programs, but Northland Caps does that very well.
Yeah, one of the things I talk about quite frequently is I wish we would have had more of that opportunity. I remember, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was 17 years old. I mean, I'm 43 and I think I might have it figured out, but maybe not. Who knows? But I mean, seriously, like I remember being my sophomore year in college and, my advisor's like, you want to pick a major? I mean, you want to do this? And I'm like, okay. So, you know, and to be honest, I mean, I am in the insurance world. I deal with numbers all the time. I am not a numbers person. My degree was English with a writing minor, and somehow here I am. So, you know, I think anything that they're remotely interested in, remotely, go shadow, go take the time, ask questions. You know, you'll be able to tell, hey, I could see myself doing this, or maybe not, or you know, whatever. But Aflac does offer an internship. There's different ways to shadow. There is that fine line because obviously we are dealing with personal information and everything like that, but we have a lot of different ways that we can show you what the career is and how you can grow within the Aflac. You know, it's a 1099 contractor position. So technically I have my own personal business through Aflac. I'm contracted with them. But, you know, I remember whenever I went into the Aflac world, I mean, I was 32 at the time, and I remember my family, here I am, a grown adult, you know, and everything. My family was like, what are you doing? Why are you going to a commission-based job? Like, why are you doing that? I don't know, because I want to. And so it was just, I just needed a change. And then so, you know, here we are, like I said, almost 10 years later. And I would have never, no one grows up and says, hey, I want to be an insurance agent. I don't know one person that says that. So you just never know. But it was the experience. And honestly, I got into this because I had friends who were already in the Aflac world, and I fed off of them, asked them questions, and just kind of went from there. So.
I would just add, so in the public accounting world, you know, having an internship during your college years is pretty paramount to, you know, I would say landing a full-time position directly out of college. You know, probably I would say 80 to 90% of our new hires every year have worked with either our firm or another accounting firm, you know, doing an internship for a semester. And so, you know, thinking back in my college days, that wasn't front of mind, you know, as I'm a freshman, sophomore, you know, those years in college, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. And I actually got lucky that I was able to land an internship with BKD, and it fit in my schedule, because at that point in time, you know, knowing when my graduation date was, I didn't have the luxury of, you know, pushing back a semester so I could go do an internship. And so I think, you know, depending on, you know, if an individual in high school knows that, you know, I may potentially want to go into the accounting field or finance field, starting to get ingrained in their mind at that point in time that, you know, as you're thinking about this, you know, think about an internship, because, you know, coming out of high school into college, I wasn't thinking of that. And, you know, fortunate enough for me, I got lucky that I kind of landed in that. And it's been interesting, you know, my years at BKD, it seems every year, you know, the level of our interns, you know, seems to get like earlier and earlier. So, you know, when I first started, we had a lot of seniors, maybe individuals who graduated undergrad going into grad school. And so they had you know, they were looking for an internship in between that time frame. But over the years, you know, we've seen more freshmen and sophomores that are starting down that, you know, interviewing for internships and trying to get in the program here. And so, you know, it seems to be, and I think a lot of that is there is a demand for those individuals and they're sought after. And so there seems to be this rush in the industry to, you know, connect with those students earlier on in the process. And so I think if students have an understanding that, hey, I need to be thinking about this, I need to build it into my overall course, you know, course load, my course schedule, as I'm getting it, you know, laying out my, you know, college schedule, you know, when they go to college, I think is pretty important. And it's, you know, something I wish I would have, you know, someone would have told that to me, putting myself back in those shoes, you know, when I first started at Northwest. But, you know, I would say just thinking of that early on about internships and opportunities, because, you know, most financial firms, most companies, I think, have an internship or a senior leadership type program that students can kind of, get their feet wet, so to speak. So.
I'm not sure if we have any job shadowing or things like that with the bank. I know if you're just, starting out, wanting to be a teller or something like that, you got to at least be through high school and get you all the training you want. But there's so many other aspects of the banking world. You've got HR and IT and facility management and stuff. So there's a lot of little other areas where maybe an internship would be a possibility. Again, I'm not familiar, know for sure if our bank does that. Before we were bought by Central Bank, Douglas County Bank out here in Lawrence, Kansas, they did that. Some of our senior lenders here started after high school. It'd be an after hours class. After classes, they'd come in and work for a few hours here, whether it be proof department or something like that. And now we've got senior management lenders that started out that way. There's just so many different aspects and areas in banking you can get into. Like I said, I started out tellering, and then I went into our loan operations, and now I'm in the lending. So you could kind of get a feel for things, and all of us are tied in together. Bankers need insurance, and insurance needs, good clients, and wealth management. All of our stuff really gets tied in. So you're not locked into one thing in your life, but having a general knowledge about all of our stuff can go a long way for you.
So, also just looking at the Q&A board. So one, our company, my firm specifically, we have an internship program. It would, any higher education person, so associate degree, even somebody pursuing a certificate, our industry can be notorious for, if you can pass the insurance exam, the securities exams, we'll bring you on board if you want to be an advisor or attempt to be. And that's maybe not the best route these days to go. But my point is that companies out there in the financial services world will spend some time, for people that show interest. I would also, though, going back to the other question about just like job sharing or shadowing and things. It is difficult sometimes because, again, I've got privacy issues, but don't also not steer your students to go reach out to people like myself to maybe just do an interview. I've given just like either buddies from the golf course, their kids an hour and a half or 2 hours or something to where, hey, let's just have a chat and talk about what it is I do, right? And what do we do? And so whereas it's not like literally following me around or, because you're just going to sit and watch me at my desk or, on Zoom calls, it's not like I'm building a statue or something. So, it's nothing tremendously fascinating, but the discussion, I think that's what I would be encouraging, and maybe a program where they're actually, hey, interview 5 different people from an industry or something like that. I think those can be very, very valuable. So that's my 2 cents on the next question as well as the last one. I'm really excited about Zachary's questions. Yeah.
Well, let's go on to that next question, which is really just the same question. So my original question was framed around job shadowing and internship opportunities, like for high school kids. Same opportunities exist for, maybe somebody that's going to community college. We've got Maple Woods up here, which is a big player in the education scene in the Northland. So are those same kind of internships available for kids going to community college or adults going to community college? Or are those kind of reserved for, as BKD, for instance, are they primarily going after the 4-year degree types, and that's where they're going to go, focus their efforts?
I would say probably in the majority of, what I would classify as our professionals at BKD. So whether if you went on like the financial audit side or maybe the tax prep side, I mean, most of the time the thought is that, you're gonna come out of school with a 4-year, degree, and then eventually try to pass the CPA exam and become a CPA. And so there are certain hours requirements from an education standpoint that individuals need to have to sit and pass the CPA exam. But I wouldn't say that's 100% of what we do. That's a large portion of what we do. But there are other, what I would call niches within BKD that do other things, whether it's, you know, a wealth advisory type of individual, whether it's a some other consultant, financial consultant type of individual, or maybe like an accounting outsourcing for an organization. So we have, you know, other opportunities within BKD. You know, if an individual maybe doesn't want to eventually sit and pass for the CPA exam, that you know, there are those kind of opportunities within our firm as well. So it kind of goes back to my comment earlier of the stereotypes, right? Of someone who either has an accounting degree or works for an accounting firm. You kind of get put in this box of, well, you know, he must do taxes or he must be great with numbers. Well, that's not 100% of everything that, you know, everyone that works at BKD does. So absolutely, there are those kind of opportunities as well.
You know, most of the internships that I have approved and been involved with have come directly to us from someone who knew. So someone knew someone at the bank and then would filter to me. Typically that is a 4-year school, but it wouldn't make a bit of difference to me if it was a 2-year school. I mean, just, you know, I would want to know if it's a true internship that, you know, the school's got to be behind it. And for us, we only do those if someone's getting credit. Otherwise, we just hire you part-time, maybe if we have a need for that. Yeah, we don't get, I haven't had much coming out of a 2-year school, but that wouldn't make a bit of difference to me if I had a role. And I do say no to someone. We've got to have a need for it because we are not big enough to have an intern program, but we do say, you know, it's a flip of a coin. We say yes sometimes, we say no sometimes, but whether it's a 2 or 4-year school would not honestly make a lick of difference.
Yes, same for Aflac. No really difference on that aspect. I mean, actually they can be straight out of high school if they want to. We just have you do have to get licensed, like Ryan mentioned, pass the insurance exam. You can get licensed in any state. Kind of the same thing like I was mentioned, we do have the internships obviously available, but I think Ryan made a great point as far as just sit down and interview. We do informational Zoom meetings with our regional sales coordinator. She does them twice a week and it's about 30 minutes and people just jump on and they just hear like what Aflac is. Believe it or not, everybody knows the duck, but honestly, most people have no idea what we do. They just know your insurance and you have a duck. And that's it. So these Zoom meetings go through what the actual Aflac opportunity is, how you can grow within the business, what the commission structure is, the stock options, the bonuses, and all that. So anybody's always welcome to jump on those and get a little bit better feel as well.
You also had to have a cast. There's always usually a cast. Somebody broke something as well.
That's true. People break bones, Ryan. I mean, all the time.
Let's get in. We have 9 minutes left, so let's go to this next question. This is from one of our participants here. Thoughts on real estate investment, like having rental properties. If you go that route, do you recommend getting a real estate license? Ryan, I'll start with you because you brought it up.
Yeah. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, you can do it without, but then you are going to be paying somebody to broker those deals at the end of the day. So, you know, if you're wanting to get into real estate as a career, it would make sense that you would get the licensing required. And there's even a different credentials beyond that you would need to obtain or would probably want to obtain. You know, some of my better clients are commercial real estate brokers that not only you know, go around and you know, maybe they're working to attract Walmarts to build a store in a certain place, and they're developing property in that regard. They're finding locations for a certain restaurant chain or whatnot. But often they're also participating in their own deals. And so, Zach, maybe that's the question you're going is, if I want to be entrepreneurial in real estate, does it make sense to get my real estate degree? I'd say absolutely. But you can do it without it. I mean, the career in real estate, the other side of it is it's capital intensive to get started. And so that's one other thing to think about too. You know, there's certainly the education piece of it, but going into real estate, how can you lever into it as a young person, it's probably getting the credentials and getting really savvy in those lines and building a clientele in that space, and then starting to be able to participate as you grow your income and capital base.
Excellent. Excellent. So with 7 minutes left here, I mean, we're about out of time. I think that maybe the last question that I would have for you is, I have kids of my own. And as I think about the career opportunities that await for them, and this is something as a parent that would obviously go into education as well. What do you think the advice is that I give to my kids in order to help them make a wise decision about a career later on? What advice would you give to yourself, either your young self or your own children, if you're in that boat, to help them make a wise decision about whether the financial sector is a career base that they'd want to look into?
You know, I would keep myself as open as possible is what I would advise them. Success really is the residue of hard work, opportunity, and luck, and you don't know what that's going to be. We are changing more rapidly than ever. So that really puts me on the generalist side. So I would have as broad of an education as I possibly could. That's what I would advise your kids, because just look at how rapidly all of our jobs could potentially change. And, we mentioned earlier how in the service industry, how much has changed. So I think it's important to be broadly ready, and to a great extent, let some opportunities come to you. And by that, I don't mean just to sit back, but I would not advise any 16 or 23-year-old to say, this is absolutely positively what my career is going to be. To a great extent, you see what happens as it comes along. I got an accounting degree, which kind of explains a lot of this, but I wasn't trying to be a banker. I got a part-time job as a teller, much like Rich did. And that, through the years, that turned into this and this and this and this. My plan in college was not to work at a bank. I wanted to get an accounting degree so I'd be marketable, right? But I cannot overstate with as quickly, things always change, but the pace of change is certainly accelerated right now. And I think that is an argument educationally to be as general as you can be, because you need to be able to adapt quickly to things. So that would be what I would say, that the rate of change, the rate that technology is coming along, is actually an argument to be as general as you can be. Now, if you want to specifically go into coding or something, that's a different story. But things are going to be changing more quickly for your kids, Brett, than they did for you, and than they certainly did for me. I think the way you combat that is to know a lot about a lot of things, and to see the opportunities and grab them when they're there.
Well, I have an 11 and a 7-year-old, and my 11-year-old's going to be a professional football player. So, I mean, we got this all figured out, So we have to have some little reality checks, like, hey, if that doesn't work out, how about, but I think, I'm pretty honest with both of them, even though, I mean, they're still young, about trying, kind of like what I said, try anything that seems interesting to you, like, dive into it a little bit more. The experience of it, just being open to everything. I think too, with the way, I can't remember if it was Ryan or Eric or somebody that said, looking at the stability of the career that you're going into as well. I mean, that's a big thing to look at. But also just trying different things. I mean, obviously, who would have thought that I would change careers at 32? I was pretty set on what I was doing before, but situations change, things change, and just making sure that you're setting yourself up for being able to always support yourself, no matter what happens, what life throws at you, and being able to be in a career that can adjust with the times of what we have. I mean, even the AFLAC world, my life and has been a little bit different with COVID, but I was lucky enough that I could still work from home if I needed to in some aspects. You know, a lot of people didn't have that option. And so while we're trying to do everything all at once, it was a good way for me to still maintain life as we went on. So, but you know, so if Parker's football career doesn't work out, we'll see what happens.
Chandra, my 10-year-old, he says he's going to be a professional baseball player. So.
Oh,
But who am I to say that that's not going to happen?
I know. I'm like, I'm not gonna doubt him, but I'm just like,
But if it doesn't, what's
what if it
plan B?
doesn't?
When they eat those contracts, give me a call. I can help them manage their.
Exactly.
You'll be first on the list.
I think for educators and parents, I think we have a tendency to want to be provide safety and comfort, and sometimes I would hearken that we're probably giving bad advice because we're too risk adverse because we're thinking of it through our own paradigm as 40-something-year-old parents or what have you. And the reality is we live in a country where risk can be taken, especially at a young age. I'm not talking about physical harm risk, but venture risk and business risk. And so, somewhat back to Ken's point about, being open and if it means like, yeah, you're going to move to, Oregon or New York or something like that, like that's a cool thing and go do that young. It is harder at 32 to, change a career. It is harder to do things, and understand that, taking a risk at a young age should be encouraged. It's the best time to do it. It's really hard when you have 2 kids and a house payment to take risk. And so that would be my biggest thing is sample a lot. And if it's something that's scary, that's maybe what you should run to versus away from.
Guys, we're out of time, but I sum it up. I mean, you're talking about the rate of change and how things are accelerating, but the opportunities are still there in the financial sector, and they'll continue to be there, even with automation and things that are going on. I heard that over and over again. I heard about soft skills and the need to be able to communicate and empathize and work with people, and even in difficult situations, and the need to go experience, I think, was a third takeaway that I got from you guys. I mean, you have to go try it. You have to figure out what's out there, because 5 panelists here, if you're in the crowd, 5 panelists here with drastically different careers within the same sector, they have some pieces that are the same and a lot of pieces that are different. And how are you going to know unless you go try it out? We won't know. So I think that that's a takeaway for all of us, is that we need to get our kids exposed to these opportunities and to understand what it's like, but it's not my job to wrap up. So I'm going to mute, and we're already a minute over. So we'll make this quick, but Amy, the show is yours. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today. We definitely appreciate your time in this very crazy world. I'm sure you had many other things that you could be accomplishing. So we appreciate the dedication you've given to us to provide information to our educators, our counselors, our students, our parents. It was invaluable. It's great to hear from the different areas. We want to just remind the audience that there were other sessions that were happening simultaneously and earlier today. And so all of these sessions will be made available on our YouTube channel. So check out Northland Education and Business Alliance on YouTube. Be sure to follow us and subscribe. We plan to continue to do other great events like this in the future. So recordings from this event, as well as our Fall Virtual Career Expo, are made available to you at any time. And so find us there. Also, be sure to check out our website at nebaworkskc.org. So that's NEBA workskc.org. And also be on the lookout for additional follow-up from us. We may have a little bit of a survey coming out. We appreciate feedback. We want to know how to make these events better. If there's something we should include, other industries, we welcome feedback. So thank you again to all of you. We appreciate your time today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.